Well, we're going to stay with this and talk about the implications of this case with Victoria Smith, who's in the studio this morning. Hi there, Victoria.
Hi there, Beth.
Let's look at Shamima Begum's case and what happens next for her.
Well, where she is at the moment, Shamima is in a Syrian refugee camp with her newborn son, Jara. She'll have no access to social media there or to a phone, so she's completely reliant on her parents to update her with the developments on her case. Now, by law, she can't be left stateless without a home. So this is what she could do. Her mother is a Bangladeshi national, so Shamima theoretically could apply to live there, and presumably the British Home Office would be happy with that decision. The question is, would she want to? Now, Lord Carlisle is a crossbench member of the House of Lords who's been talking about this, and this is what he's had to say.
Well, I think it's most unlikely she would want to go to Bangladesh because the Bangladesh government is dealing very toughly with terrorists and people associated with terrorists. So the likelihood is that she will remain where she is in the refugee camp with her child for the foreseeable future. There is the possibility of her family bringing litigation on her behalf in the UK and asking a British tribunal to decide what her nationality is and whether the government has acted lawfully. But that could take a very long time. I'm talking about 2-3 years at least.
So lots of ethical questions raised there by Lord Carlisle about Shamima Begum's future and also that of her child.
Well, yes, in fact, the question revolves around, of course, whether the Home Secretary is right to have done this. The latest statement from the Home Office says that his priority is the safety and security of Britain and the people who live there. But Shamima and her family, of course, have the right to appeal his decision. And their lawyer, Mohammed Akunji, says the family is very disappointed and that he's considering all legal avenues to challenge the decision. Interestingly, he also denies that Shamima has dual citizenship with Bangladesh. Now, as for the baby, he is arguably entitled to be British through his mother's citizenship, and it's unclear as to whether the Home Secretary sent this letter to Shamima's parents before or after the baby was born, which could complicate matters. And then, of course, there's the question of separating him from his mother. Practically, who would have the right to act for the baby if the mother is no longer a British citizen?
Yeah, so plenty of questions that still need sorting out there. Thank you very much, Victoria Smith. Well, let's get more from this with Victoria Smith, who's here in the studio this morning. Morning to you, Victoria.
Good morning, Belle.
Let's start by just, if you can remind us what's behind the start of this row.
Yes, of course. Well, at the root of it all are comments made by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu while he was visiting Warsaw for a Middle Eastern conference. Now, during that visit, he appeared to accuse the Polish nation as a whole of complicity during the Holocaust. Now, originally, there seemed to be a row over semantics, what he said, what he meant to say. There was confusion over whether Netanyahu was referring to Poland as a nation or Poles individually. Now, this is an incredibly sensitive subject between the two nations. Of course, 90% of Polish Jews were killed during the Holocaust, and historians say that yes, some Poles were involved in that. Now, that's denied by Poland to the point where it can be considered a crime just to say so. On the other hand, of course, thousands of Poles did save Polish Jews at the time, so a very difficult situation. And when this row began, Poland responded by saying it would pull out of this summit, the V4 summit that was meant to take place with Israel, with Hungary, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Ironically, the summit is meant to highlight Israel's ties with these Eastern European countries, so that was unfortunate. Things looked as if they were calming down yesterday when Poland's foreign minister said he would go in place of the Prime Minister, but then Israel's acting Foreign Minister, Israel Katz, took the row onto a whole other level. He quoted comments attributed to Israel's late Prime Minister, Yitzhak Shamir, and his words meant that Poland pulled out of the summit for good, with Poland's Foreign Minister, Jacek Czaputowicz, demanding a serious response.
Poles collaborated with the Nazis, definitely. As former Prime Minister Shamir said, his father was murdered by Poles. He said that from his point of view, they sucked anti-Semitism from their mother's milk. You can't sugarcoat this history.
I made this decision because the statement made by Mr. Katz, the man appointed to be the Israeli Foreign Minister, is totally unacceptable. The words spoken by him are unacceptable not only in diplomacy, but for me they're unacceptable anywhere in public. Poland was the nation that suffered most, along with Jews and the Roma, during World War II.
Now, of course, the V4 summit has been postponed to the end of the year. That's a blow for Netanyahu, who has elections coming up on April the 9th. And he had hoped the summit would enhance his diplomatic credentials, and he sees the summit perhaps as a counterbalance to Western countries which are more critical of Israel's policies towards the Palestinians. So he could be seen as trying to court the Central European vote. And Poland has its own elections coming up this autumn too, and this row could affect its diplomatic goals, as of course the summit was meant to give it a bigger voice on the world stage.
All right, thank you very much. Victoria Smith in the studio with us.